Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of NFT Gems. I am Jacob Kochgalp, your co-host, and as always, I'm joined by Chase Allred. Today, we are also joined by Jordan Freed, the founder of NFT.com, an upcoming decentralized NFT gallery social platform. They are launching their Genesis Keys NFTs project by auction next Tuesday on April 26th, 2022. So this is going to be next week. And before we get into these NFTs, first of all, Jordan, welcome. We're glad to have you here.
Yeah, Chase, Jacob, thanks for having me, guys. And excited to talk about what we're working on and excited to meet.
Yeah, awesome. So first of all, before we get to the NFT.com, can you tell us more about your background? I saw that you worked at Hedera Hashgraph and Buffered VPN.
Yeah, my stories, it's a fun one. I learned at an early age that I was not going to go a traditional path. I'm from a really big family. I'm one of 10 kids, second oldest of 10 children. I have 3 brothers and 6 sisters, and I grew up in Buffalo, New York. I share all of this in that, it was a unique way to grow up. It's a rambunctious group, and it was a fun upbringing. I had the great fortune of having a really technical father. Who, we had an air hockey table in the basement. We never used it for air hockey. He actually taught us how to build motherboards as kids. Not all my brothers and sisters took as much interest in it as I did, but we had static electricity strips all up and down this air hockey table. We could build motherboards and modems on them. My dad ran a company out of the basement called the Tech Shop, where he'd sell computers, kind of like Dell back in the day. And I kind of grew up on that. I'd play Sega Genesis with his employees, guys who would just come in and out of the house, just selling computers out of the garage. I got to make my own computer as one of my birthday present gifts. I was probably 8, 9, or 10 years old and got my first computer. It was a DOS operating system, white text on a black screen. And I played a lot of Duke Nukem. I think you guys are young, but you probably heard of Duke Nukem. Or that was the game. That was the game back in the day. It was a first-person shooter game. You're right, super pixelated, not the best user experience. I learned how to build early computer applications, and got to fool around online. I'm part of the generation. I'm in my early 30s. I'm 33 years old. There was no concept of screen time when I was growing up. I literally could spend as much time as I wanted to on the internet. And that led me to, my first real internet venture that took off. It was a game, RuneScape. Jacob, I think we share RuneScape in common. So RuneScape is a big part of my journey.
I have many hours played on RuneScape.
Exactly. So I found RuneScape. The year must have been 2000, 2001. It's the earliest versions of RuneScape. RuneScape got progressively better from a graphic perspective. But this is an early version of RuneScape. To tell you how early RuneScape I was, the way you subscribe to RuneScape was by putting $5 in an envelope and mailing it to a P.O. box. I'm not kidding. You'd take a $5 bill, you'd put it in a P.O. box, and you would mail it to some P.O. box in Alabama, which would somehow make its way to Jagex Limited, the multi-billion-dollar game company, which is how you subscribe to get a pro account. I'm not even kidding. The big forum back in the day was Rune HQ. And for those listening that aren't into gaming or MMORPGs, don't worry. It gets to the tech and the business and the crypto side pretty quickly here. But Jacob, as you remember, the currency in this game was RuneScape gold points. Now, I was terrible at the game. I would go 1v1 in the wildy and I would get wrecked. People would kill me. I'd drop all my rare items. I would lose everything. I was a bad player, objectively. My little brother was amazing. I mean, I'm telling you, top 10th percentile in the entire world. He crushed. He was part of gangs. The other players liked him more. No one liked me in the game. And he had this whole crew, and he was making on average, I kid you not, 6 to 10 million RuneScape gold points per day. Per day. He had top characters. Now, we had macros. Keep in mind, 10 kids. We had a computer lab in our house. We would go to middle school and we'd set up these macros that would click the tree, cut down the tree, collect the wood, run to the bank, deposit the wood all day long.
So macros are, for anyone who doesn't know, are kind of robots, bots that do the repetitive actions that you don't want to do yourself.
Good translation, Jacob. Great definition. So we had these robots mining RuneScape gold points. Guys, decade before Bitcoin, right? This is still 2000, 2001. So 8, 9 years before Bitcoin. And I take my parents' credit card. I'm too young to have a credit card. I'm still like 12 years old at this point. And I register runemint.com. And I'm like, we are selling RuneScape gold points, 1 million RuneScape gold points for $30. And I put it up there. I took out another banner ad for $20. I bought the top banner spot on runehq.com. And I took out the top banner spot, go to middle school the next day, come home, made $500. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? I'm 12 years old. I just made $500 in my PayPal account. My brother and I are freaking out. So we create these other character accounts to help people get the gold. So we had these decoy accounts. Our main characters were always protected. We'd meet the decoy character. The decoy character would meet the purchaser. We had this whole system. It was this elaborate system. And I recruited my little brothers and my little sisters to come help us run this entire operation. Next day, $1,000, $2,000. We started making between $3,000 and $5,000 per day selling RuneScape gold points. It got absolutely ridiculous, cuckoo bananas. And this ran for 90 days. We were huge. We couldn't make the RuneScape gold points as fast as we were selling it. So I took out another banner ad. We are buying RuneScape gold points for $10. And I was the only guy doing it at this time. So we bought RuneScape gold points for $10. We were selling it for $25 to $30 per million. The reason I say the range is if you bought more, we'd give you $25 price per million versus it depends on how much. If you bought volume, we'd sell it to you for a little cheaper. And this took off. Apparently, this is called market making. We made a market in RuneScape gold points, and apparently, it's called RWT. I come home from school. My mom is sobbing, and I'm like, "Mom, is everything okay?" And my dad's home. My dad's like never home at that time. He had moved out of the house. His business got a little bit bigger, and he had a bunch of employees, and but he was home. And they're like, "You've been served. And I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I had been sued by Jagex Limited when I was 12 years old, a multi-billion-dollar company behind the game. And they sued me for violation of their intellectual property. Apparently, they own RuneScape gold points. They own Rune, the word like Rune. They had registered all of it. And I'm like, whoa, this is internet currency. This is digital currency, right? It's still digital currency. A decade before I would come to learn what cryptocurrency is. So that's a long story. I know we took a little bit of time on that story, but that was my first experience as a 12-year-old with magic internet money, with what wasn't a cryptographic coin, but was a coin created by a company that had intellectual property rights, which really helped me understand cryptocurrency, something that's decentralized, something that people don't own intellectual property around. So fast forward, I wouldn't say I was a fuck up, but I wasn't really focused. Excuse me if I'm swearing. I don't know if I can swear on the show.
You're fine.
No and if fast forward to like 18, my parents forced me to go to school, dropped me off at the dorm. I didn't go to school. I mean, I was in school. I was living in the dorm. I was not going to class. I started a summer storage company to help all the international students store their stuff between semesters. I was just trying to make a buck and get out of Buffalo. Boy from Buffalo, like most boys from Buffalo. My dream was to get out of Buffalo. Sorry for people who still live in Buffalo. It's a great place, but it just wasn't for me. I wanted to go see the rest of the world. But honor my path. I still love my upbringing. I still love my roots. I run to Budapest, Hungary. Random, really random. I heard there was cheap beer and beautiful women. Turns out both are true. And I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had no idea. But I had this background knowledge. I had this tech background. I knew how to build web pages. I could program to, front end at least. And I could build a computer. So moved to Europe, moved to Budapest illegally. I had no papers. I didn't even have identity. Like I'm just border hopping. But I post up in Budapest. I ended up spending 7 years there. My first realization was it was a serendipitous one, a fortunate accident. The internet is not the same outside the United States. It was my first real experience living abroad. I couldn't watch Netflix. Netflix hadn't expanded globally yet. I couldn't watch the Buffalo Bills. I wanted a tool to help me make my laptop and make my Wi-Fi at home geographically be positioned in the United States. So I built a VPN service called Buffered VPN. Turns out other people wanted VPNs in 2012, 2013. We became one of the fastest growing VPN services out there. And the rest is I was fortunate enough to really grow that business. No venture capital. I self-financed that business with literally $5,000 that I had to my name to start it. And we became notable in 2013. We became one of the first consumer software brands to start taking Bitcoin as a payment method. So that's when I discovered Bitcoin at the end of 2012. We made a decision as a company to start taking it in 2013. This is Bitcoin 150 to 350 in that range. Our annual plan was about $150. So every time someone bought an annual plan, we'd get between half a Bitcoin and 1 Bitcoin. We actually weren't pleased about it because we couldn't recur a Bitcoin account. There's no monthly recurring revenue on a Bitcoin account or an annual recurring subscription. Someone should build that. So we weren't pleased to get it, and there was nowhere to sell it. So we never sold it, which was okay because the company was making money. We had all of this monthly recurring revenue from credit cards and from PayPal. So built that business up. I was fortunate enough. I'm 27 years old, and I got an offer to sell the company. So I sell the company. Great exit. I got to keep the Bitcoin because Buffer's now part of a publicly traded company. And I decided to move to New York. At that point, I have no idea what I'm going to do next. I meet a guy named Dr. Lehman Baird in Mance Harmon and took a bunch of my liquidity there and plowed it without doing much due diligence, other than an 8-hour day. I spent an 8-hour day with them, but I trusted them. And I trusted that the technology was real. Turns out it is. And I plowed a good portion of my liquidity at that point into their company, Swirlds, and then what became Hedera Hashgraph. So I'm part of the founding team of Hedera Hashgraph. For those that know it, it's HBAR. I don't know. It's the crypto markets are so volatile right now. So it's like a top 40 coin in the world. I think it's like 35, 36, and 37, depending on the day. It was me, Manson Lehman, and like 2 other people. So I got to hire, Natalie Furman, our general counsel. We had to go find a lawyer to start a crypto company in the US. But I was excited to try to build something better than Ethereum at the time, right? I was excited to build a layer 1 protocol. I still very much am. And my job was to recruit our governing council to build the world's first true enterprise DAO. That's what Hedera is. It's governed by Google, IBM, Boeing, Deutsche Telekom, Nomura, the London School of Economics, Tata Communications. The list goes on and on and on. You can go to hedera.com and see all the huge organizations that govern this. It's an enterprise DAO. They have decisions. They sign transactions on the network when they make decisions. It's fascinating. And we did that in 2017. A bunch of people slammed the door in our face and told us this is never going to work. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears because I'm like, oh shit, this might not work. And it did. And we worked our asses off for 4 years. It was amazing. There's still an incredible team there. I left at the end of 2020 to go do what I'm doing now, which I'll talk about in just a second. But love HBAR, love that community. Shout out to the HBarbarians out there. While I build Web3 products on other protocols, I always try to include the Hedera ecosystem as much as I can. It's just the reality in 2022 that there's so many more users in some of these other networks. So it's important to be thinking about building bridges, to really be agnostic to layer 1 technology, but to focus on good user experiences. So I feel like I'm monologuing, guys. So tell me to shut up.
No, that's awesome. It's great information, great alpha. And I love to hear about your background. It's especially just talking about you being one of the first real world trader on RuneScape. I'm like starstruck.
So much fun. It was so much fun, man. I mean, I literally at 12, I was like, I'm going to retire my parents. This is going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. This is such a good idea. I found it. I got this, and my dreams were squashed in 90 days. Well, I mean, I cried. I sobbed.
The other thing that I'm getting from this is that you're early in everything. You were early in the real world trading game. You were early in the VPN game. You were early in the layer 1 DAO game, and now you have NFT.com. And I'm assuming you're going to be early in that, and you're going to be right once again for the 4th time.
You got to be early to get the NFT.com domain, right?
Yeah. So Chase and Jacob, you guys are like hitting on something super relevant and important, which is I think that timing is absolutely everything in life. There was this guy. It's one of my favorite documentaries ever for young people like your age or, for any age. You got to watch it. It's called E-Dreams. It's hard to find it, but it tells the story of this guy. Totally forget his name. Of a Goldman banker who leaves Goldman to basically start what is now Uber Eats, but in the 90s, right? This is during the dot-com bust. You've never heard of this company because this company doesn't exist anymore, but they raised hundreds of millions of dollars on the Uber Eats pitch. order anything in New York City and have it delivered to you in under 15 minutes. They went bankrupt. They were too early. Now, why were they too early? Let's just go back to like 1995. You guys were a little young in 1995. I think you were you even alive in 1995? You weren't even alive in 1995, guys. Let me tell you about 1995. Because I remember 1995. Yeah. The internet sucked. It could take you 10 minutes to check an email in 1995. There was a crazy dial-up connection in 1995. And while we're still pretty close in age, it's like now everybody has a high-speed internet connection in their wallets. We didn't have that, right? It was dial-up, and the internet was kind of like dialing onto the internet. Dialing onto the internet in 1995 is like dialing onto the Ethereum network in 2022. That is the same user experience. Too expensive, really slow transactions, takes a long time to get settlement. You're freaking out as block confirmations are coming in. You sent an email, but you don't know if it's going to go to the person. Did it bounce? Is it not going to go? How long is it going to take to send? It was a objectively bad user experience. Now, in 2000, we were improved, right? Some people offices had T1 lines. We had faster internet speeds. Coming around, we started getting mobile smartphones, not just flip phones. My first phone was a flip phone that I could just play Snake on. I couldn't even do anything else on it. And then I check email on a phone. Now I had a data plan, right? There was all of this stuff rolled out and made the internet user experience a little bit better. So what I'm just trying to say is, the user experience of someone using a blockchain today is absolutely going to improve. We're having people dial on, and that's the point I want to leave people here with, that you're early. Timing is important. Starting Uber in 1995, it didn't work out. Starting Uber, a decade or two later, it did. The world was ready for it. Enough people had smartphones in their pockets. Enough people had high-speed internet connections. It's figuring out, having a good gut instinct beyond IQ and being well educated and having the proper credentials. I'm just saying that because I have a chip on my shoulder. You guys are about to graduate college and I don't have one, so I'm a little bit jealous of you. But having good intuition about, where we are in the time horizon of NFTs, or where we are in the time horizon of Bitcoin, that's so important, right? Are we at the top of the market? Are we at the bottom of the market? Where are we with NFTs? I think objectively, you can just look at the data and say that we're early for NFTs too. So yeah, thanks for the compliment. I've been fortunate to have been early. I've been wrong, by the way, guys. I've been wrong about certain things. I thought that scooping dog shit door to door was going to be a huge business. And I did that for a while. I had a company called Duty Free, and I was like, this is going to be huge. Where I went door to door, I scooped dog poop, and some people liked it, but most people
What do you
didn't.
mean by scooped dog poop? You mean you put the dog poop
I'm not kidding.
you put it on their door, or you took it away from their door?
Oh, no. People would hire me to come to their backyards when I was a teenager. I told you I was desperate to get out of Buffalo. So I would go door to door and scoop dog poop, and I would clear people's backyards for money. So, that for me was never entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. I never called it entrepreneurship. There was no hustle porn in that. That was just, how can I make an extra buck to get to Budapest, to get to New York, to go do the things I wanted to do in life. But the timing for that business, I don't think the world was ready. Maybe they'll never be ready for that, but who knows? I've been wrong too, is my point.
So, Jordan, NFTs had their first run in 2017 with CryptoKitties and the original CryptoPunks. Would you compare that to the 1995 Uber Eats model that you're looking at, and why did it not work then, and why are NFTs going to work now? Why is it 2010 Uber as opposed to 1995 Uber in 2020?
Yeah, I would look at it a different way. So what happened in 2017 was not the year of NFTs. So let's just talk about the year of blockchain from the very beginning, like what the years were, what they were characterized by. And then I'll kind of do a roundabout way of answering your question about the future of NFTs and where we're going there. But clearly it was just Bitcoin in the very beginning. It's Satoshi Nakamoto. It's the Bitcoin Talk Forum. It's Mt. Gox as a trading place, and BitInstant, right? Charlie Shrem and some other places that you can get Bitcoin, and not much else. A lot of people just didn't know what the price of Bitcoin was on a day-to-day basis in the very, very early days, because we were in just complete price discovery all the time. The price of Bitcoin was whatever someone would deliver a pizza to you for, right? It just was like there wasn't a lot of things to do with Bitcoin. except buy drugs, as we know, on the Silk Road. You know, 20 fast forward to 2015 Ethereum, right? Now we've got, okay, we know that a blockchain can power cryptocurrency, but what else can it power? And Vitalik and his team had this tremendous idea that this can be a decentralized computing network. Really, what we have is CPU bandwidth and storage being contributed to a network to fight for the right to solve mathematical problems, to add a block to a chain, and then earn an economic reward for doing so. Turns out that's like a decentralized cloud computing platform. And turns out it can power business applications. Enter the wave of general purpose application networks, 2015, 2016. This is Ethereum, mostly. Of course, there's Ripple in there somewhere, but I would argue that's more cross-border settlement and not a general purpose application network. Vitalik was like, hey, Turing complete, right? Turing complete compute network to execute atomic swaps, smart contracts, do tokenization on top of it, build your own cryptos. That was what was happening in 2015, 2016. Those were the ideas, very early days of it. I found ETH in 2017, which then became the year of really tokens on Ethereum, ERC 20s, not 721s. These are ERC 20s tokens that could be used instead of selling equity in your company to capitalize your business. You could do an ICO, the initial coin offering, right? End of 2016, 2017. Man, I did every single ICO that was brought to me in 2016 and 2017. Made a lot of money. And I don't feel very good about it, if I'm being honest with you, because a lot of those companies don't exist anymore. And we're not talking about that, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money. It was a crazy, irrational, exuberant rave. Now, let me pause here before I talk about the rest of the years of blockchain and how I think about them, because what happened in 2017 with ICOs driving Bitcoin up, a lot of people would sell, by the way. Why did Bitcoin run up? One of my thoughts on why it run up was a lot of people would raise a lot of ETH and a lot of USD from these ICOs, right? We're talking $80 to $100 million in some cases per ICO, some of them much more. In the case of Block One, you guys know the story of Block One behind EOS. They raised $4 billion in their ICO, $4 billion. They own one of the largest Bitcoin wallets in the entire world. Okay, these guys have billions of dollars in Bitcoin. So who was buying Bitcoin in 2017? Well, it was the people making bank by doing these ICOs. Block One was one of them, one of the largest recipients of this. So you have this run up and you have this correction, not too dissimilar to the expansion and the contraction in the late 90s, which ultimately culminated in the bubble burst for dot-com companies. In 2018, 2019 were the years of the Ethereum killers, right? That's Hedera Hashgraph. That's Solana. That's Algorand. That's Avalanche, right? There's the academic driven networks, right? Silvio Macaulay in Boston, Dr. Lehman Baird, amazing, PhD professor from Carnegie Mellon University behind HBAR. These amazing academics saying, whoa, 8 to 12 to 17 maybe transactions per second on the Ethereum network. We can do better. We can do thousands of transactions per second, carbon neutral, yada, yada, yada. 2020, in my opinion, you guys are also analysts, so tell me if you disagree with any of this. 2020 was the year of DeFi, 2021, the year of NFTs. Okay, so now we're kind of like caught up. 2022 and beyond, my prediction where I think we are in this life cycle is one, I totally agree with what some smart people are saying in the market. I think Gary Vaynerchuk said this, so I'll kind of borrow this from him. I totally agree that we're going to see a 90% wipeout in value at some point in NFTs. There has to be a correction. There is too much, right? There's Moonbirds are selling for floor of 2.5 running 20. Some of this stuff is cuckoo bananas, and we got to be careful. Some of it is real. Some of it is absolutely real. Right? Jimmy ETH used to own 400 apes, made tens of millions of dollars from the ape airdrop probably, and has done very well for himself, right? There's lots of people who made a lot of money. There's a lot of wealth creation happening right now. There has to be a correction. There has to be a correction with this. But NFTs are going to be part of our lives for the rest of our lives. Two things are going to come out of that correction. One, how we use NFTs is going to change drastically. It'll absolutely, that correction will force a shift to art for the sake of art. NFTs have been over for a long time. What utility does your NFT bring? Is it membership to WAGMI United? Does it give you a global membership to the Lynx DAO, where you can be part of Mike Dudas's group trying to buy a golf course in the United States, an amazing community, and full disclosure I'm part of and happy to be part of. Is it a personal seat license of a real world stadium seat that you can go to, right? How we use NFTs, that'll shift. Where we're positioning ourselves at NFT.com is one, of course, we want to cater to what's happening in the market right now because some of it will survive. I think apes aren't going anywhere. There will be a lot of volatility and price correction, I believe, but I think apes, doodles, Artifact Clone X, these now have well-funded operations behind them. Yuga Labs has raised hundreds of millions of dollars. The Doodles have made hundreds of millions of dollars. Artifact was acquired by Nike. These are well-financed operations that'll continue to invest in curating lots of utility for the holders of their NFT collections, and some of those will continue to exist. Many of them won't, but what will last will be what I believe the utmost form of it, whereas in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to start to see enterprises use NFTs at scale, and we're going to see real world value. I believe everything of value in the physical world will be represented in the digital world in the form of a token and likely an NFT, whether that's a title deed to a watch or an authenticity certificate of a watch, or a title deed to an apartment or an office like the one I'm sitting in, or your season tickets. I think it's all going to be tokenized, and we, NFT.com, we want to be positioned to be able to capitalize on that, obviously. So yeah, I think we're early. Chase, hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the walk through blockchain history from an OG.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that was very that was crazy, super informative.
Well, listen, you guys study it, right? You guys are in it all the time. You're looking at the projects. You're deep in it. I think it's really helpful to zoom out and study the
macro lens.
Yeah, study the boom of the personal computer. I think that's like an amazing time. The Hewlett Packards of the world, the Compaqs, the Apple, Microsoft. Study that. Look at what happened there. Study the browser war. Studying the browser war, Mosaic, Netscape, right? Internet Explorer. Like, what is it going to be? Who's going to be the dominant browser, right? Study that. And then the operating system war. We all going to be using Windows 95. Is it going to be Mac OS X? You guys are probably using Macs. Most people our age group do. And then you study the .com boom. And then what you take from each of these are lessons. It's just helpful that I kind of lived it. And I didn't live the personal computer wave, but I learned it from my dad. So I kind of had a head start that I think I had that education. I'm not formally educated, but I had enough of the tech education to understand like, whoa, what's happening right now in crypto. People are like, hey, there's rug pulls everywhere. I'll never buy an NFT because scammers are everywhere dropping these scammy NFTs. I'm like, really? What do you think was happening in the late 90s when everyone and their mother was taking a company public that was making no money? Everyone was hawking stock. That stock was shit. Those stock certificates are worthless. People lost fortunes. Is that any dissimilar to an ICO? Is that dissimilar to an ICO? Is that dissimilar to like a shitty NFT drop promoted by Floyd Mayweather? Honestly, it's the same shit. Celebrity endorsements of IPOs in the 90s were not different. But during that time, Amazon was built, right? Early entrepreneurs, Jerry Yang building Yahoo.com, Mark Cuban Broadcast.com, selling to Yahoo.com. Some built real stuff. Some built real, and there were companies that certainly survived that and did out and made out very well. So there are absolutely examples of that happening right here, right now, of projects that are going to last. You guys are probably a better place to talk about those than even me because you diligence them on a daily basis. But I don't think it's just scams out there right now.
Great. Well, let's pivot a little bit. And can you explain kind of what NFT.com does, what its value add, and then kind of go into the NFT Genesis keys drop that's happening next week?
Yeah. So first, I mean, I feel like I'm being too wordy here because we're way over when the time we wanted to be for this. But hey, I'm really passionate about all of these topics, and I could really go on all night. But I'll try to keep this one a little bit brief. Web 1 was all about every organization needs a web presence. Web 2 was every organization needs to not just have a web presence, right? Like Web 1 organizations, churches, synagogues, schools, barbershop, they got to have a website, right? That was one of my like childhood businesses, making web pages for them. Web 2 was like, hey, every organization needs social media. And then you had all these social media consultants, right? Even Gary Vaynerchuk, VaynerMedia is one of them. We'll help manage your social media. We'll help get you lots of followers on Instagram and Twitter and all of these other places. Every organization, including KPMG, needs to be social in that way. Web 3 is every organization needs to allow their users to have a voice. Every organization needs to use some element of decentralization to empower its users. Web 2 was about building a mansion on someone else's land. Web 3 is about owning the land and owning the mansion built on top of it, right? Axe, Infinity, Decentraland, right? The Sandbox. A little bit different than RuneScape, right, Jacob? Like you can you can own the currency. You don't get in trouble for selling mana outside of the game. No one's suing me for that, right? You buy it right on Uniswap. So when you look at Web3, we knew that there's a lot of Web2 companies today putting lipstick on, pretending to be Web3 companies, right? We got to call these folks out, right? I can't be the only one to call OpenSea out. Others have called them out, but I'm probably just doing it a little bit more publicly, where there are creators, unbelievable creators, what I would argue revolutionaries, people on the front line building unbelievable communities, driving tremendous value. We're talking, guys, hundreds of thousands of ETH worth of transactions, literally hundreds of millions of dollars in transaction volume on OpenSea, yet they don't have account managers. They don't have a direct line to Devin and Alex, the CEO and CTO. They don't earn stock options. They're not vesting equity in the platform. They don't even earn loyalty points like you do when you fly American Airlines or Delta United, right? They're totally disenfranchised. They don't get to vote in how that 2.5% fee that we pay on every transaction on OpenSea is spent. They don't get developer grants or artist grants. That money goes to venture capitalists. That money goes to the people that own OpenSea. That's Web 2. That's how things were done in the past. But how things were done in the past is no longer viable in the future. Okay. Creators are the ones that made Instagram. Creators are the people that make TikTok. Creators are the people that make Twitter. But you don't own that Twitter following. You built a mansion on Jack Dorsey's land. Your Instagram profile with 1 million plus users, congrats. Zucks owns that. Meta owns that. He could take it away from you at any point in time. Guys, you're laughing, but they did it to a sitting president. They can do it to you. They do it all the time, and we don't talk about it enough. We are not the customer. When they talk about their earnings, they talk about how much money they make per user per quarter. Facebook brags in its earnings reports, we make $15 per user per quarter. There's a better way. We believe that the internet in its current form is flawed. I believe that we can re-architect web applications to empower the people who add the most value to these web applications, the creator. What if creators, proportionate to the amount of value they added to that platform, had that amount of say in that platform, really were empowered, really were in charge? Enter NFT.com. Right? NFT.com is a truly decentralized Web3 platform run by its users for its users. While I'm the founder of NFT.com, you better believe I'm not the CEO. Our DAO is the CEO. Our users make the decisions that happen on the platform. I'm an evangelist. I'm here talking about it, but the users control that platform. Now, it's a subtle distinction, but what we've decided to do, instead of doing that traditional username and password that you're familiar with, right? Sign up for a Facebook account. Back in the day, guys, it used to be with your .edu email address. It was a benefit of being in college. You got a Facebook account. Not anymore. Anyone, including grandma, can have a Facebook account. But you had to sign in with a username and password, and there's that sign-up flow. With NFT.com, it's a little bit different. With NFT.com, we've got this Genesis key thing that you can buy. This is what's going public on April 26th. But this Genesis key unlocks 2 profiles that you can mint on NFT.com. You can mint NFT.com / Chase. You can mint NFT.com / Jacob or Jordan or you, whatever your name is or whatever your brand is. Now you mint that. Now here's what's really cool. That token that sits in your wallet, it's yours. 1, you can sell it if you want. Okay, we encourage you to go ahead and sell it. 2, if you want to keep it, that is your login credential. That is your single sign-in login credential. If we see it in your wallet, that is how you log into NFT.com / Jacob or Chase. You log in, and that page is your Web3 primitive. It's the very basis of what becomes your Web3 identity. If you're a collector, it's your gallery. It's where you're going to display all the NFTs you own today. And then all those fun things I said that you might own in the future, right? That authenticity certificate of a Rolex, or that title deed to a property, or hey, maybe that fancy degree from Harvard or Stanford that you want to brag to people. That'll probably be issued on the blockchain as well. And that's where you'll show it. It's your digital gallery, or it's like the walls of your living room that will come to life that people can go see. Your profile, if you're a creator, is also your storefront. And all of this integrates into a fully decentralized marketplace where users can interact and transact with each other. Eventually, a full-blown Web3 social experience where Chase can see what Jacob bought, Jacob can see what Chase and Jordan bought, and we can really interact with each other without worrying about privacy, without worrying that we're being monetized by some ad platform, but on a platform that we own, that we control together as a collective. Regardless of what your politics are, no one can say that the founders of the internet expected us to get to a place where a 30-year-old billionaire tech CEO of a tech conglomerate could deplatform a sitting president and become more powerful. We didn't intend for the internet to get to that place. No one person should have that much power, which is why we're governed by our users, which is why we're governed by a DAO. So NFT.com, that's what we're building. All of this is not theoretical. It launches on April 26th. It all starts with the Genesis key. There's 10,000 of them. They're literally NFTs. If you buy it and you don't want it, you can also sell that. We encourage you not to, but that NFT is how you unlock NFT.com in our ecosystem. It gives you your accounts. It gives you governance rights. It makes you a forever co-founder of the NFT.com community. It's as if you're on the board of directors of Twitter today, right? It just puts you in a position to have governance control on how this platform is going to run. I think it's exciting. Hopefully someone listening to this thinks it's exciting. If not, I'll understand. I'll be a little heartbroken, but I think we're onto something here because we've been able to pick up a lot of momentum.
Yeah. So I have a quick question in regard kind of to the me wanting to sell stuff, kind of my marketplace through my profile. So if let's say I was creating an NFT collection called Flying Foxes or something, I could just get NFT.com/Flying Foxes, and then I could sell all of those through that profile.
1,000%. And you'll not only be able to sell that through that profile, but as a creator, you can rest assured that you have a voice in this community. If you need features that aren't added, you know that you can speak up and get them added. You know that you'll have an account rep and that you'll have people in Discord that can help you. You know that the code of this platform is entirely open source, open license. So if you can program, you know it's audited and you can look at it and you can add to it. I think that's the future of web platforms. Web 2 is all proprietary, closed source, monetized by tech conglomerates and sociopathic billionaires, a bunch of honestly white dudes in their like late 30s or early 40s that, like to ride e-foil boards and hold up American flags while they're doing it on 4th of July. If you've seen the Mark Zuckerberg meme. We think there's a better way. We think, Jacob, you should be the CEO of NFT.com. And Chase, we think you should be the CEO of NFT.com. We think all Genesis key holders should be the CEOs of NFT.com and should be those decision makers. So the benefit there is, you're going to have governance rights too.
Awesome. Chase, you have any more questions for Jordan?
No, that's fantastic. That was a really interesting interview. Definitely some
interesting good or interesting bad. You guys are making me nervous. I don't know.
Oh, come on.
No, that was awesome. That was
great.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Send some shots at some incumbent Web 2 founders who have already been called out.
You got to be vocal, right? There's something to be said for Babe Ruth, right? Babe Ruth had a controversial style, and I'm not trying to compare myself to him, but before he stepped up to the plate, he'd point for the fences, right? He goes, I'm going to knock this one out of the park. He didn't do it every time, but we remember the times that he did, right? That's what made him a legend. I'm not going to win every time. I'm not going to tell you I'm going to hit every single shot I take out of the park, but this is much more than me. It's the community that we've built behind this. Now, NFT.com's success, NFT.com isn't Gordon Freed's domain name. It's not Immutable Holdings, our venture studio's domain name. It belongs to an ecosystem of people. And that's a really interesting experiment. I think that experiment's going to work. And I think that experiment's going to take us to a place where we have a very different relationship with the platforms that we use, right? We have a different relationship with Snapchat at that point, or TikTok, or Facebook, or the versions of it we're using in the future. It's time to empower users. We've been disenfranchised for too long. There's a better way. We can't let Zuckerberg win the metaverse. We can't. It's too important. It's too important for him to control it, man. We can't. It's like, can you imagine using that? We're going to get sued again for selling RuneScape gold points.
Yeah.
We can't let that happen.
And they're going to take 50% of your NFT
50% fee. Are they tone deaf? Do they not understand what's happening in the market? We're complaining about a 2.5% fee because we don't have a voice in how that's allocated. Right? You can't take a 50% fee. So there is a better way. And yeah, I'm fired up about it. And yeah, I'm loud about it. And not everyone's going to love everything I say. I probably swear too much, but we're going to die trying, and we're going to try to make this happen. And if you found this interesting, join us. Get a Genesis key on April 26th. Join us on this mission. We're looking for other like-minded people. So viva la revolucion. See you on April 26th. NFT.com.
Awesome.
I love that. That's a powerful message.
Yeah. Well, you all heard Jordan here. The links to NFT.com will be down below. Obviously, it's NFT.com, so it's not very hard. But we will also put the Twitter, Discord, etc., all the other links you can find Jordan and his team at NFT.com. We thank you for watching NFT Gems, a show by TokenMetrics.com. And if you liked it and you made it this far, like the video, subscribe down below, and we will see you next week. Thank you, guys.